Hello everyone, I'm the Weather Dude. Welcome back, and today we're going to be talking about some upcoming potentially major snowstorms that could traverse the way across the United States over the next couple of weeks. And then be sure to stay tuned to the end of this video so that we're going to be able to talk about how this could potentially affect us for the winter of 2023 going into 2024. So as always, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell notifications. Sadly, a large majority of you are still not subscribed. So be sure to subscribe and hit that bell if you haven't already, and let's just get right into the video. So to start us off here, we're going to talk about the Climate Prediction Center's 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. And as you can see, they're actually predicting from November 7th to the 11th some below average temperatures across the Northeast and the upper Midwest, even back into parts of the Northern Plains as well, right? I'm going to kind of see like that polar jet stream kind of dig down to the south a little bit, allow for some cooler air to enter parts of the Northeast, while the South actually is going to stay warmer, as well as the Southwest and even parts of the West Coast. All right, so we're going to kind of have like a little jet stream kind of go like this. All right, so that way the colder air will be contained further to the north. All right, so, and even places like Alaska, warmer as well. So that probably tells us the jet stream is doing something like this. It won't be like that all the time, of course. It will move around a little bit, but in general, colder to the north, warmer to the south will be the theme of. Now, this isn't the next 6 to 10 days because sometimes people mistaken this as like 6 to 10 days between now and then. No, this is 6 days out from now and 10 days out from now. So the 7th to the 11th. And you can see valid at the top there. So the dates that this is valid for. In terms of precipitation, actually a good chunk of the country expected to be above average precip, but it is emphasized for the West Coast and for the East Coast. And because a lot of these storms, right, that come in through the West Coast, and then we have some that go up the East Coast. So that's kind of emphasized here in the precip outlook. Now, 8 to 14 days. So this is November 9th to the 15th. Still below average temperatures for the Northeast, while parts of the central and western, even southeastern U.S. are kind of trending warmer. And then again, emphasized on the coastlines. Notice this, right? West and East Coast on the 8 to 14 days. So again, 9th to the 15th, even parts of the central U.S. as well. Now they're expecting above average precipitation. So that's just kind of a look there at what they're forecasting. Now, if we take a look at our oscillations, something I do like to do here, the Arctic oscillation, again, this one, when it's in its negative phase, colder east, warmer west, and you can see has been trending in the negatives and probably will start to go up a little bit more, maybe trending closer to neutral over the next few days. We take a look at the NAO, that is also in its negative phase. So these two, right, can again are work the same way, and they could, and that's why I think that the Northeast and especially parts of the eastern coast as well are cooler, right? We got freeze warnings right now, all the way through the Mid-Atlantic Southeast. So that's what these two oscillations are kind of working together as one of the things to help make that happen, right? If we take a look at the PNA, now this one is also in its negative phase too, but not by a lot. It's kind of been hovering. You can see how it kind of touched neutral. So it's kind of hovering around neutral. It touched the zero line. It's kind of been hovering around there. So it probably will continue to over the next few days, but could potentially head back into more of a positive realm, which would again have the same impacts that a negative AO or NAO would have. Again, colder east, warmer west, right? All about the jet stream troughing and ridging patterns. Now let's take a look at actually some of the models that we have. We got the GFS, Euro, Canadian, as well as the more longer term CFS model to help us kind of look a little bit more longer term, maybe into winter as well, to see, what we could have on the horizons. Now do keep in mind that these models, I'm going to go pretty mid to long term today, so take what you see here with a little bit of a grain of salt, but as a note of what could potentially be coming up for us here. So first off, we're going to take a look at the GFS model. All right, so if we take a look here, you can see over the next few days, we will have these little low pressure systems, like we had one coming through today. We have another one coming through. These little clipper systems, these little areas of low pressure that kind of make their way across the north. All right, and even though these aren't necessarily major snowstorms, one of these could certainly turn into one, especially if it combines with another coastal low. All right, sometimes these do get pretty strong as well if they go off the coast, but they still do bring a little bit of rain, a little bit of snow. You can see another one that moves to the east after that one, right? We got kind of just a trail of low pressure systems kind of moving from west to east, and another one behind that tracking a little bit further south. Notice how it gets off the coast, gets a little stronger, maybe some more, some heavier rain, and then snow inland, of course, right? Notice the pressure kind of start to drop, right? 998 and so on and so forth. So the pressure does strengthen, the storm strengthens, makes its way off the coast, right? And then another bigger system you can see right here. Although it's a lot of rain for the east, it starts rotating, really strengthening it and getting that cold air in there to help get that snow coming down. Now, again, this is about like mid-November, so it's like the 14th. So, again, do take this lightly, but I mean, especially with these longer-term systems, the GFS has been at least consistent about it, right? So that's better than nothing. That doesn't mean it's right, but it does mean that um, something similar to this could be on the horizon due to upcoming patterns. You can see this low pressure coming down from Canada, bringing some cold air with it as well. All things considered here, definitely need to keep an eye on. Taking a look at snowfall forecasts, again, some chunks right across the north central plains, but especially emphasized across the northeast. I think that's going to be the area where we most likely will see some sort of snowfall accumulation over the next couple of weeks. The Northeast has definitely been highlighted in that. And of course, as usual, the Rockies as well. But that's no surprise. We've been starting to see snow there already. If we take a look now at the European model, all right, you can see again, we got a low pressure system, kind of like a little bit of a stronger Clipper system. It's tracking pretty far north, so the cold air will be held a little bit further to the north, right? But then there's another system that kind of moves in, and again, pretty strong, below 1,000 millibars of pressure. Got some snow for the northeast in New England. Although this one, now these kind of storms, right, they move north, but the cold air is actually there ahead of it. But because the low pressure tracks to the north, the precip starts as snow and then changes to rain once the low center gets closer. A little bit more warm air kind of gets brought in from the south, and right, it helps kind of convert that snow over to rain, right, and then maybe end off with a little bit of snow. So we definitely have had storms like that. There's been storms where we've gone from rain to snow. Some have gone from snow to rain, and some snow to rain back to snow. All precip types and all kind of order of precip here could be on the table for these systems, right? Because it's not January, okay? It's November. I mean, especially in early November, even in places across the Northeast, not every low pressure system that moves through there is guaranteed, or almost guaranteed to bring snow. But notice it is a pretty strong low pressure system, and behind it, high pressure sets up across the central U.S., and we got the cold air that's just coming down from Canada. I mean, you can see it with these blue lines here. It's really just like a big invasion of Arctic air that kind of comes in behind the system, kind of like on Veterans Day weekend. So that's something to potentially watch as well. But do notice, even though the rain could melt some of the snow, all right, do notice that the Northeast, again, is highlighted in the snowfall chances. This only goes out to about November 11th. I know the other one kind of went out a little bit further. The other forecast went out to the 17th. This goes out to the 11th, all right? And again, do notice that the Rocky Mountains there, and even parts of the upper Midwest as well, could see a little bit of snow over the next week or two. All right, if we take a look at the Canadian model, again, something that's we're gonna keep our eyes on as well. All right, you can see again, low pressure system moves across Minnesota, upper Midwest. All right, definitely again more rain than snow, but that doesn't mean on the backside we can't get a little bit of snow at least. All right, when the storm kind of moves its way north, cold air is allowed to sink in. We could see some little bit of areas of snow. So I think the Canadian is the least bullish between the three models here. But again, still a little bit of snow for the Northeast, North Central, Northern Plains, all right, and even parts of the Rocky Mountains over the next week or two. All right, and taking a look at the CFS model. All right, that's another one we got to keep our eyes on. But again, like the GFS, the CFS does tend to hype some storms up a lot, especially in the longer term. All right, but do notice again, a lot of them seem to agree on this northern kind of clipper track of low pressure systems. All models pretty much seem to agree on that. Right? Then the low pressure gets off the coast, the high pressure builds in, cold air behind it. We'll see what kind of precip is left over when the cold air comes in. If those are able to match up, then maybe we get some snow for the Northeast. Again, it's all about the timing of the air masses and when the precip comes and goes. All these need to be considered as well. You can see another bigger low pressure system moves across the U.S. and another one. All right, and then maybe get some snow in the Northeast. But again, this is like going out to the end of November. But I did say I was going longer term, so definitely take this with a grain of salt. However, but do note again, look at this Northern Plains. This is by the around Thanksgiving week. We're seeing some snow, and it's like a train of low pressure systems. All right, so kind of getting that stormier pattern that is typical with El Nino because again we get an enhanced southern tropical jet that allows these low pressure systems to track further south than usual. which means that the snow could be held further north than usual, right? Because usually when you get a low pressure move kind of in this fashion, warm air gets run up ahead of it and cold air comes in behind it. So, if it's further north, right, that cold air is allowed to get dragged a little bit further to the south, right? So, I'm sorry if the low that was backwards. If the low is further south, I'm sorry, then the cold air is allowed to get dragged further south. As you can see here, right, low is far south, high pressure sets up here, cold air is kind of dragged down from Canada there. Sorry, I got the low backwards. All right, if we take a look at the CFS model, this is like the weekly variant of this model. So you can see kind of like what the Climate Prediction Center is saying. Look at this. All right, over the next week until November 8th, and from the 8th to the 15th, cold air is going to be in place across the east. And then after that, it starts to wane off a little bit. But this model also gets kind of funky in the more longer term. So they just kind of smatter a bunch of orange. I say that a lot. But in the near term, it's a little bit more accurate. All right, and you can see again, cold air in the east, warm air in the west, and the oscillations and the Climate Prediction Center all seem to back that up as well, right? And if we take a look at the precipitation, right, you can see drier air is in place, right, for the 1st to the 8th, except across like the northwestern U.S. But do notice, right, the east gets a little bit more above average precip from the 8th to the 15th, right, a little bit more precipitation there. Then it kind of flips back to more of a drier pattern for the east by the end of the month. All right, how about the CANSIPS model? Let's take a look at what they're forecasting. So take a look at December. January starts to get a little cooler, and then February, right? Maybe some cooler air for the southeast. That is typical with an El Nino, right? Certainly could be a possibility, maybe going into early parts of early spring as well. We take a look at the precip anomalies. Again, look at this. December, January, February, even. February starts to flip a little bit, but December, January could be above average on the precip, which could lead to increased chances of snow when there's cold air available. All right, and kind of to round off the video here, we'll take a look at the European model, the MSLP, right, 500 millibar heights. You can see again, low pressure after low pressure system, right, is going to be moving through. You can see it here. You can see the next one coming through, right? When high pressure moves away, that's allowing those low pressure systems to keep on going. So high pressure, you can see another one waiting in the wings, one waiting behind that one. All right, so they're all just waiting. It's like a train, kind of like a conveyor belt here, right, of weather, whether it's high pressure or low pressure, right? There's kind of like a line of a train of low pressure systems, right? Assembly line, if you will, kind of just storms rolling on through the United States. All right. If we take a look here at the GFS one more time before we round off the video here, you can take a look at the 500 millibar heights again, kind of taking another look at it here. You can see by the blues and the purples, that's where you have the colder air, the lower pressure. All right, you can see all the way through, end of next week, we got 1 and then 2. All right, there's another one starts to deepen its pressure right across the east, and we got a 1 waiting behind there as well. All right, and then we got area of higher pressure, a little bit more warmer air across Alaska, and then another low pressure system behind that. So it's just the cycle of how everything works in weather, but it could be a potentially active next couple of weeks here across the United States. All right, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Stay tuned for future updates. I am the Weather Dude signing off till next time, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.